Welcome to our video on the secrets of Europe's royal families. During the era of great monarchies, these royals were seen as the epitome of dignity and culture, far above the dirty and harsh lives of the common people. At least, that's what they wanted everyone to believe. But the truth is quite different. Inbreeding among these royals led to some bizarre decisions and shockingly gross lifestyles. Let's dive into the real stories behind the royal facade. Number 9. Joanna of Castile traveled with her husband's dead body. Joanna of Castile, the mother of Emperor Charles V of Spain, spent many years married to Philip the Handsome. She was so devoted to him that when he died, she refused to let anyone bury him. Instead, she kept his body in her room for over a year, acting as if he were still alive. When people asked about him, she would insist that he was just asleep and would wake up soon. Joanna slept next to his decaying body and made her servants treat it with the respect due to a king. In her jealousy, she wouldn't allow any women into the room, fearing they might be overcome with lust for her deceased husband. Number 8. King Adolf Fredrik ate himself to death. Swedish King Adolf Fredrik had a fondness for a dessert called semla, a sweet roll filled with cream. However, his love for it proved fatal. In 1771, he indulged in a lavish meal of lobster, caviar, and other extravagant dishes. After finishing, he consumed 14 semlas in one sitting. When he tried to get up, he felt unwell, and shortly after, he passed away. He became known in history as the king who ate himself to death. However, this fate wasn't entirely unique. King Henry I of England had previously died from eating too many lamprey eels, showing that excessive indulgence in food could have dire consequences. Number 7. King James I only cleaned the tips of his fingers. According to Sir Anthony Weldon, King James I wasn't known for his cleanliness. Legend has it that James never bathed, despite the need for it. Weldon described James as having a tongue too large for his mouth, causing liquid to dribble down his chin when he drank. James didn't seem bothered by this and rarely washed his hands, merely rubbing his fingertips on a wet napkin. This lack of hygiene might have been due to James's habits. Weldon claimed that the king frequently used his fingers, often fiddling with his codpiece. So it seems that this minimal hand hygiene was the only cleanliness practice James ever observed. Number 6. Charles VI didn't change his clothes for 5 months. King Charles VI of France suffered from severe mental illness. He experienced fits where he would run wildly through his home, and other times he believed he was made of glass, remaining completely still. During his worst episode, which lasted 5 months, he did not bathe or change his clothes. For nearly 6 months, the king remained immobile, trying to avoid contact with anyone. Finally, he had a brief moment of clarity, allowing someone to change him and clean what must have been extremely soiled clothing. Number 5. Henry VIII had a groom of the stool. King Henry VIII of England made many reforms, including creating an important job in the English monarchy, the groom of the stool. This job went to a lucky boy chosen from the sons of the king's most trusted nobles. His task was to follow the king around with a portable toilet, always ready for action. The groom of the stool had to be very attentive. He watched what the king ate, took notes, and prepared for what was to come. When the king needed to go, the groom helped him undress and then cleaned up after him. Surprisingly, this was a highly respected position. The groom of the stool had unparalleled intimate access to the king, lived in the castle, and received a good salary. This unusual and proud tradition lasted for almost 400 years, with the groom of the stool being a key figure in the royal household. Number 4. King Charles II kept a wig of his mistress's pubes. In 1651, King Charles II started a strange new project. Each time he slept with a woman, he would pluck a few hairs from her intimate area. He stitched these hairs together to make a wig, which gradually became a thick mane of female hair. When the wig was big enough to cover a man's head, Charles II donated it to a Scottish drinking club called the Beggars Benison Club. The club loved it so much that they used it in their ceremonies. One person even stole the wig and used it to start his own club, making people kiss it. In 1822, King George IV revived this odd tradition. He kept a box full of hair from his lovers, intending to make a wig like Charles II. Unfortunately, George died before he could complete the wig. Number 3. Queen Maria Eleonora slept with her husband's heart. Queen Maria Eleonora didn't love her husband, King Gustavus Adolphus, for his power or money. She loved him for his heart. When he died, she had his heart removed so she could sleep with it. Maria Eleonora kept his heart in a golden box above her bed. Some nights, she made their daughter sleep with her so they could both be close to his heart. This was a deeply traumatizing experience for her daughter, who later wrote about her mother's abusive behavior and constant crying, noting that her mother carried out her role of mourning to perfection. Number 2. Louis XIV throne doubled as a toilet. Of all the historical figures, French King Louis XIV might have been the smelliest. His throne also served as a toilet, and he would use it during court sessions. You'd think the court would notice the smell, but Louis XIV's presence was already filled with strong odors. He only bathed 3 times in his entire life, which was rare even for the 17th century. To mask the stench, Louis XIV filled his rooms with flowers and drenched himself in perfume, having a new scent designed for him every week. He believed that changing his shirt 3 times a day was enough to stay clean. Just like using his toilet throne, his wardrobe changes were public events. Every morning, he invited 100 men into his room to watch him get dressed. Number 1. Christian VII pleasured himself so often that it became a national crisis. Denmark's 18th century King Christian VII was famously preoccupied with self-pleasure, to the point where the Danish government held meetings to address it. His doctors believed his chronic masturbation was causing all his problems. In reality, Christian VII suffered from mental illness, likely porphyria, which was probably the root of his excessive behavior. His chief physician, Johann Friedrich Struensee, even wrote a book about the king's masturbatic insanity. Struensee eventually took over most of the king's duties, as he couldn't get Christian to focus on ruling the kingdom. This arrangement allowed the king more time to indulge in his personal habits, while Struensee made the important decisions. And there you have it, folks, 10 truly disgusting habits of royalty that make even the most mundane parts of our lives seem glamorous in comparison. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.